This is really more of a response to a question that I had somebody send to me. And I thought it would be interesting to make a little bit of a topic about it. As you guys know, James Gunn is now the head of DC. Well, he's technically the co-head, him and his production partner, Peter Safran, now up leading and running the DCU, or at least the upcoming DCU that launches in 2025 with their first film, Superman Legacy. And, we've talked a lot on the show about the need for this movie to be great, understanding that it's going to suffer the baggage of the old DCEU. And so it's probably going to struggle a little bit at the box office, and that's fine because it's a part of the rehabilitation of the image of DC. Very excited about it. But I had somebody write to me and ask me specifically, what are the things that I think that James Gunn philosophically needs to bring into this new DCU as we're retiring the DCEU? What does this new DCU have to do? What does James Gunn, what are the 10 things he needs to do to try to position it as well as possible for success? Outside of the obvious answer of make great movies, which is always my first answer, right? So I thought we would take a look at this a little bit. So let's hear my 10 things I think James Gunn needs to bring philosophically to make the DCEU succeed. First thing is find the right balance of dark and light tones. Rob will often talk about the DCEU, and he likes a lot of the films in the DCEU. But outside of, like, say, Aquaman or whatever, Rob would often say there was a lack of joy. Like, comic book movies need to have a joy to them as well. Not exclusively joy, but find the right balance. I think one of the things that Zack Snyder's DC Cinematic Universe did really well was the grittier, darker stuff, but it was sometimes guilty of not balancing it out with bringing some of that joy in. At the same time, you don't want to pull a Thor Love and Thunder and go too far to the other side. So I think one of the things he's going to have to do philosophically is find that right balance of dark and light tones. Secondly, stick to the plan or commit to the change when a change is needed. Warner Brothers historically has been guilty of being overreactionary, right? Like, oh no, something slightly went wrong. Change everything, change our plans. Or when they would do a course correct, they would be very wishy-washy about the course correct. Look, everybody knows this, but when they weren't happy with the way Batman versus Superman went, at least a number of WB executives weren't happy with the way Batman versus Superman went. And they were very close from removing Zack Snyder before they started shooting Justice League. The problem was they couldn't make up their minds, and they decided it was too late to make a change, and they let him go. But instead of just sticking to that, they became very wishy-washy, right? They let him go and do it, but there was a lot more interference and a lot of things that happened, and we all know that all turned out to be a big mess. I think for James Gunn, what he's got to do is stick to the plan. But no matter how good any plan is, once in a while you might have to make a course correction. But when you make that course correction, be committed to the course correction, right? Don't do it halfway. Make the course correction and then stand firm. That's how I see it. All right. The third thing is have a clear vision with the directors before filming starts. This is something that has pretty much killed the Star Wars universe under Disney. And Disney's put out a lot of great Star Wars stuff too, but ultimately, one of their reputations is that how many projects came and went without ever filming because Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm couldn't get on the same page with the directors, or at least didn't get on the same page before they announced new directors and projects. We saw it with Lord and Miller. We saw it with the Boba Fett movie that they were going to do. We saw it happen with Rogue One. We saw it happen so many times over there. And I think one of the things that James Gunn is going to have to really 100% make sure he does, learning the lesson from Lucasfilm, is when he's bringing directors in, that he 100% makes sure that he is on the same page as those directors and those directors are on the same page as him. So that way there's no surprises once filming starts. All right, number 4, I think tell standalone stories outside of the cinematic universe. This is something that the DCU is doing right now, right? Like we have Joker. We have Matt Reeves as the Batman. I want to see DC continue to do that. Make a great cinematic universe. Yes. But every once in a while, take the handcuffs off and let some talented filmmaker come in and tell a great story with one of your wonderful DC characters outside of that cinematic universe. So not every story that's going to get told has to be handcuffed to the DCU. I want to see them continue doing that. All right. Number 5, I really want to see them tell personal stories. Now, it's great to make a Batman movie about how Batman saved Gotham from, an alien invader. Okay, a story about Batman doing something is fine and great, and we need those movies. But I also want to see a movie about Batman. Like, one of the great things about Matt Reeves' The Batman is that, yeah, it was about Batman stopping the Riddler. But really at its heart, this was a story about Bruce Wayne. This was a story about Batman. One of the movies that really did this really well was Zack Snyder's Man of Steel. Yes, it was ultimately about Superman stopping the invading Kryptonians, but really at its heart, it was a movie about Kal-El. It was a movie about Superman. And I want to make sure that in telling these grander stories about big events, that they also make sure just to tell personal stories as well. I think that's really key. Going to Zack Snyder's Justice League movie, by the way, staying on 5 for a second, I think the biggest improvement about Zack Snyder's Justice League, the HBO version of Justice League, over the theatrical version, was the additional footage and scenes with Cyborg. And they really made, because those extra scenes with Cyborg really made it personal about him and understanding his heart and his soul. And I think that was the biggest improvement that made. Anyway, number 6. And I'm speaking kind of at you, Marvel, have real consequences. Now, you notice I put in the brackets there, Red Wedding. Chris, I was recently going through some, YouTube rabbit holes, and I got on some old reaction stuff that people did for when the Red Wedding came out. I don't know how it got on that. But seeing everybody's reactions to the Red Wedding in Game of Thrones is, if you've never seen them, guys, look it up on YouTube. It's hilarious. But here's the thing. The events of the Red Wedding, with 5 significant characters in the show just dying off like that, what it did was it made the audience, like you and me, have to stay on our toes. Because we could never, we should have known that at the end of season 1 when they killed Ned Stark. So, we probably should have known it there, but it really put us on notice that in Game of Thrones, if you're a fan, you cannot get comfortable. Your favorite character could die any minute now. When somebody goes into a duel, like when James Bond gets into a fight in a bar, well, we know James Bond's going to win the fight. But in Game of Thrones, if some Lannister pulls out a sword and gets into a sword fight with some Stark, your favorite character could die. And what I would love to see is James Gunn commit to having real consequences in the DCU. And listen, everybody should be on the table. Don't kill Superman in the first movie, but if you got the balls to at some point kill Superman, kill Superman. Or if you want to kill Hawkman, or if you want to kill a Green Lantern, or if you want to kill a Wonder Woman, or something like that. If you can establish that your DCU is going to have real consequences in them, I think that could make the storytelling really, really compelling. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of this video, Quip. Guys, you know that good health starts with good habits, and Quip makes it easy by delivering all the oral care essentials that you need to care for your mouth. For example, their incredible electric toothbrush. Guys, I've been using electric toothbrushes for years, and this is easily the best one I've ever owned. Timed sonic vibrations with 30-second pulses to guide a dentist-recommended 2-minute clean. A lightweight and sleek design for adults and kids with no wires or bulky charger to weigh you down. Reusable handles in a range of sleek metal hues, as well as bright plastic colors, sure to make a pop on your bathroom counter. Skip the batteries and snap into healthy habits with the new rechargeable electric toothbrush. All the features of the original Quip, plus one magnetic charge, powers up to 3 months of brushing. In addition to brush heads, Quip also delivers fresh floss, toothpaste, mouthwash, and gum refills every 3 months from just $7. So if you go to getquip.com/Campea right now, you'll get 20% off any electric toothbrush, mint and gum dispenser, or water flosser. That's your 20% off any electric toothbrush, mint and gum dispenser, water flosser at getquip.com/Campea. That's GETQUIP.com/Campea. Quip, the good habits company. All right. Next up at number 7, don't make the DCU completely Batman-centric. All right, listen, I'm not one of these guys that says, oh, stop doing stuff with Batman. No, Batman is your most valuable IP. He's your most valuable character. He's probably your most popular character, and all that is for a reason. Use Batman. Make him significant. Just make sure your entire DCU doesn't completely revolve around Batman, right? Because we've got Matt Reeves as Batman. We're going to have your Batman in the DCU. We got animated Batman going on. Look, there's a lot of Batman out there. Just make sure that while he's one of the main figures, don't make him the figure that everything else revolves around. Number 8, please don't overexpand with dozens and dozens and dozens of characters. I understand, but John, in the comics, there are 500 characters. I know, I get that, but this is a cinematic universe. And I think one of the things that has hurt Marvel a little bit is that, honestly, their superhero population is just too big now, right? We've gotten to the point in Marvel that there's nothing special about a superhero anymore because there's a superhero on every street corner, patrolling for crime. It's taken the specialness out of it. It's taken the, what did I used to call it? The exceptional out of the mundane. You know what I mean? And I just hope that have more than 3 or 4 characters. Yes, just don't get into the 3 dozen characters thing because I think then it's going to overweight it a little bit. At least that's what I fear. All right. And number 9, take advantage of your rich villains. And what I mean by that is, look, don't be afraid if it's telling the right story to have Scarecrow in there and kill him off in one movie. That's fine. But also make sure that you are really taking advantage of some of your key great villains, that you don't just have a one and done for every villain in each movie. Like, well, this is the movie where Penguin shows up and now he's gone. And this is the movie where Bizarro shows up and now he's gone. Like, some of them, yes, because there should be real consequences. But take advantage of some of your villains. Have them used over 3, 4 film kind of stretches and storylines and stuff like that, or have them recurring now and again. DC just has too many great, great villains that I don't want to see them just kind of all, one and done and out. All right. The last thing I'm going to mention here is remember to infuse adventure into your stories. Now, look, some people confuse action with adventure. They're 2 different things. 2 guys fighting in a bar is action. But like, go to Raiders of the Lost Ark. There's like exploring, diving into the unknown, like the sense of adventure. Up is a great example of adventure, right? And I find sometimes that a lot of even really good comic book movies forget to include adventure and instead overcompensate with just too much action. Have that sense of adventure in these movies as well. And I think if they do that. So again, my 10 things that I think James Gunn needs to do: find the right balance of light and dark, stick to the plan or be fully committed when you need to do a course correction, have a clear vision with the directors before filming starts, tell standalone stories outside of the cinematic universe, tell personal stories, have real consequences. Don't make the DCU completely Batman-centric. Don't overexpand with too many characters. Take advantage of the rich villains and remember to use adventure. So, Chris, that's my big rundown. I think I've at least philosophically the things I need James Gunn and Peter Safran to bring into this new DCU. Do any of those stand out to you? Do you have some that maybe I didn't include? What are some of the big ones to you that think they need to do to make this new DCU in 2025 really succeed?
Man, the Elseworlds kind of idea here of doing self-contained stories, that is, I think, very, very key to them being successful. Because as we've seen with Marvel, we get this very tangled web that when it doesn't all fit together in a beautiful Dickensian fashion where everyone knows each other and it makes sense, we as the audience go, wait, what? What's the point of this one then? Right. We think that we're putting this puzzle piece together, and if it doesn't fit, we get angry about it. And that's something that we as fans need to work on, myself included. But that's the expectation that's been set, right? I totally agree on making these personal stories too, because a lot of times what I feel DC has kind of lacked when it's come to the screen and what's so rich on their pages is the personal backgrounds here, right? One of the reasons why the Batman film worked so well is because it took that kind of Batman hush ideology of destroying Bruce Wayne and making it a personal fight. That's why stories like, Superman Birthright are so great by Mark Waid, of just really exploring who these characters are. I think too, we've talked about this ad nauseum, but really with Superman, you have to make him so other. You have to
Yeah.
focus on that struggle and that difficulty with dealing with your own strength. And surprisingly, two of the best things that have done that are Superman and Lois and My Adventures with Superman. Like they're great. They're so well done, and it's in shocking ways of, oh my gosh, the Superman magical girl anime handles Superman really well. Okay, cool. So I think that's one of the things here is we've really relied on the power aspect of
Yeah.
superheroes. And I think we got to go back to that idea of what Captain America did really well, what, Spider-Verse does really well of the hero is the person, sans the powers. The powers are just icing.
Yes. Well said.
Thank you.
To the Superman point as well, I think another film, Superman Project, they did a good job of, because again, with Superman, and that's what they're starting off with, Superman Legacies, their first film out of the gate. With Superman, it's always difficult because how do you tell a compelling story about the God Man, right?
Yeah.
Brandon Routh's Superman Returns, it's divisive. There are people who have different feelings about it for many different reasons. I think there's great things about it. There's some things it did weak. I thought it was a very good movie, just not a very good comic book movie. But one of the things they did great in that movie was they showed Superman's struggle. But his struggle, the Brandon Routh Superman struggle was, what is my place in this world? He still feels alien. He feels so outside that he doesn't even know how to relate to the woman he loves. He doesn't know how to relate to the rest of humanity. He still doesn't know his place. There's a great scene in Superman Returns where he's literally just floating around in outer space. Listening, yes, but they do such a good job of showing the sorrow that's in his heart about the fact that he doesn't feel like he belongs. And it's like, that's going to be key for them. I'm glad you brought that up, that they're going to have to find a way for Superman to, what does he struggle with? And it can't just be kryptonite.
Exactly.
And that's going to be their big challenge. Anyway, guys, the question for you is, what do you think are some of the key things philosophically that James Gunn and Peter Safran are going to have to bring into this brand new DCU to ensure that it's successful? We want to know what you guys think. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, we have a daily podcast called the John Campea Show podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice. Go and subscribe to it today so it'll be there when you need it.